41 states sued the company, claiming Instagram and Facebook are addictive and that it harms children. With me now, Rebecca Walser. And Rebecca, I got to tell you, you've been sounding the alarm on this stuff for a long, long time. Here's the problem, though. It never feels like anything is going to come of it.
Yeah. Well, 33 states sued in the Northern District of California as a kind of a class action, state attorneys. And then you had another D.C. and 7 other districts that are suing locally. And what's happening, Charles, is they're just saying, look, these companies, we see that Meta, when they were being pulled away to go to like Snapchat or something else, TikTok, you saw Meta actually make their program, Facebook and Instagram especially, for teenagers more addictive so that they would stay on there longer. And so these, all these attorney generals are basically saying this is really bad for the psychology of our young children. And it is just totally different, Charles, than when you and I grew up and there were, like mom said, come in for dinner when it's dark. And that's what our life was. Now these kids are connected 24/7 to their friends. They know they track each other with smart apps, with GPS tracking. And it's just outrageous how lack of autonomy they have and lack of personal identity without this social construct.
I see that with my 11-year-old granddaughter. Just the other day, she was at the house and she knew what one of her friends was doing. It was like, and so-and-so just dropped off. I'm like,
right.
This is nuts. This
no,
is really,
exactly.
really nuts. You've got a great, astute feel for the global economy and what's happening. You've been concerned about a lot of things. I want to play you something that Jamie Dimon had to say yesterday in Riyadh.
And I hear people talking about ESG all the time. I just would put on your table the most serious thing facing mankind is nuclear proliferation. If we're not sitting here 100 years from now, it will be nuclear proliferation. It's not climate. And so I think when you look at the geopolitical situation, as complex as we've seen.
So the geopolitical situation is complex as we ever seen. Nukes are out there. It's a scary time. How do you navigate through something like this?
I think there's 3 points to Jamie Dimon's comments. First of all, I want to note that he's in Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is joining the BRICS nations in January. So all of these financial leaders are in Saudi Arabia, and no one's talking about the fact that they just agreed to join BRICS. So that is a big problem. But Jamie Dimon is a mean potatoes, data-driven guy. You know this, Charles, and he sees what's happening. So he can say, ESG, maybe 50 years down the road, it's not like what Al Gore said, 20 years ago. It's not happening as fast. And with the Middle East and with obviously Ukraine and Taiwan, there's so much more of a greater thret of nuclear explosion. And that's
but what about the complexity and the way this globe is it? I mean, I got a little bit more than a minute before I hand it off to Liz Clayman. How's that? What are you doing from an investment point of view? Because that has been looming for you for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a time where you have to structure in a possibility of systemic changes. We are in the time of systemic global changes financially. And you just cannot, as we've talked about before many times, you just cannot have such cheap cost of capital that really is being just paper being printed and not disrupt your currency and remain dollar hegemonic forever.
So there's that hard assets.
Hard assets, commodities. I wouldn't do any financial derivatives right now, unless NVIDIA or something that has such a long runway with AI growth and, GPU units and stuff like that. It's really a difficult find to find a really good safe bet right now.
And
for me,
we're talking dysfunction, U.S. dysfunction. We finally got a House Speaker, but you think they'll get their act together in time?
I'm just glad we finally have somebody in the middle.
But it feels like, listen, we're real close to this fiscal cliff. Wherever we're going to go off, we're a lot closer to it now than we were before.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So we need some leadership somewhere.
All right.